Yo, what up though? It's your boy BobeBlaze with TeamMUJ. I'm in here tonight to tell a little bit of stories. As you know, we are on the road to the gathering of the Juggalos. Here at TeamMUJ, we will be dropping videos all the way up until the gathering of different kinds. If you tune in and count our last one, we sat down with Matt Murderous and Lotus Nixon, and we discussed maybe some predictions we had for the gathering, some potential lineup things, some things we're hype about for the lineup that's already been announced. And we told a little bit of stories, but not really like gathering stories altogether. We told like stories of these artists that we've seen at the gathering or other shows or whatever that we've seen them at. Tonight I decided to come on, sit down, and talk about some of the gatherings that I've been to. I've been to 8, and really now 8 out of the 20 doesn't really even seem like a lot, I guess, because I know people who've been to I went to a few of the gatherings with my homie who went to like all 10 all the way up until the 10th or whatever, and not really many after. But I know some people like our homie Wasteland Killer. I think he's been to all 20 or whatever. So that's super dope. I started going back in 2002. I was a young motherfucker. 2002, I think I was like 13 or 14 or some shit like that. It was down in Peoria. It was the 3rd annual gathering of the Juggalos. So it's really wild to now be going to the 21st annual. Yeah, it's just weird to fucking think about. But in this video, I'm kind of just going to tell like one story basically from the 8 gatherings that I've been to, and maybe I'll just talk a little bit about the gatherings that I went to. Some of these stories are like kind of explicit, but just know that I am saving some stories that I could just never tell online. You know what I'm saying? Like even now would be just like I don't know, just like inappropriate stories. These are stories that only me and the homies share or whatever, or just like if you were there, you knew what happened in the full story. And that shit, good thing a lot of those happened before social media or people. Jiggy and I, in fact, were talking the other night, and we were just saying how even at the 10th annual, I think it was the 10th annual gathering or whichever one we were at, we were like, man, isn't that wild? Like, all we really had was digital cameras, you know what I'm saying? Even then, I had like this fucking busted ass phone that didn't have a camera on it at all. So we're like, damn, it's hard to have pictures from a lot of these. In the 2002 gathering, I know that I have pictures around. I had a bunch of pictures about kind of even the story that I'm going to tell. I'm just going to kind of go right into it. Everybody right now, if you're watching, hit that subscribe button if you're new here, like the video if you're down with it, and share some of your favorite gathering stories in the comments below. Like I said, my first gathering was 2002 down at the Peoria Civic Center in Peoria, Illinois. I was like 12 or 13 or 14 or some shit at the time, and I remember that summer when I found out, I was like, look, I have to go to this gathering shit this year, you know what I'm saying? ICP's been in hiding for like 8 months or whatever, recording the 6 Jokers card, and I gotta go to this fucking gathering. The little juggalo inside me was like, I will do anything to go to the gathering. So of course, I hit up my mom and I'm like, what can I do? My mom had just got a new shed put in, and she wanted to paint it like a old barn color and shit, that like not like red or whatever, but just this barn that she was like familiar with these colors that she liked or whatever. So I was like, look, I will fucking paint this entire shed, make it perfect as can be, and I did, no doubt. But I was like, look, I'll paint the shed for you, like I'll be like, the tickets were only like $100 or some shit back then. So I was like, yo, I mean, come on, $90 or whatever, I'll paint the entire shed, and like really, I was a young ass kid. I couldn't afford anything else, so I was like, I was gonna need everything for the gathering. But my mom let me do it. I painted the shed or whatever, and finally I was able to get my gathering ticket. But then, like I said, I'm a young ass kid, so it ended up coming down to it where my mom had made my sister drive, and she drove with. She brought one of her friends, and me and my boy Frankie went to the gathering. She took us to the gathering. I'm telling, like, I'm gonna tell multiple stories, I guess, on this one. But like on the way down there, we're in Indiana, so it was only like a 2.5 hour drive. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is really probably the closest gathering that I've been to, even the one that was just in Indiana last year, the SOOPA Gathering. I think it was farther than where Peoria is to us. So went down to Peoria, and on the way down there, I mean, we were like 45 minutes away from downtown, if that, 20 fucking minutes away from downtown Peoria or whatever, and the van tire blew out. So we broke down on the side of the road. Little did I know this would be a reoccurring theme at gatherings later, but that's a whole other story. We ended up breaking down, and Mad Ninja stopped for us or whatever, and this one ninja had stopped, and he ended up being from Hammond, Indiana. Long story short, like, I don't know, that's a whole other story in itself right there. But I just met the guy again at the fucking Clown Apocalypse show that we threw last October, so I thought that was super fucking cool. And I think he's going to be camping with Lotus Nixon and them and Matt Murderous at the gathering this year. But a bunch of people stopped, and finally these people stopped, and like, you know, my mom, we got a hold of my mom or whatever, and the insurance was sending someone to fix the fucking tire or whatever. We didn't have a spare and shit either for whatever fucking reason the spare wasn't on the car. It was we all, like, after the tire blew out, like, we all had the same visual picture of the spare at home or whatever, for whatever reason, not on the van. But we ended up getting to the gathering from some other people that stopped. I felt like, and this was like hard sell to convince my sister, like, hey, let your 13 or 14-year-old brother hop in the car with these strangers and head off to the gathering. And they did, you know what I'm saying? Really, my whole story about this shit is, like, if you guys know the 2002 gathering, there was like this giant riot shit shut it down or whatever. It didn't like completely shut down the gathering, but shut down like almost a whole day at the gathering, you know, and shit just was like super crazy. But I ended up being right there when it happened. I have pictures of it. I doubt I'll be able to find the pictures before this video gets put up. I know a lot of them had got lost in this move that I had forcefully made 10 years ago or so. But in some of these pictures, I was literally right here as this riot started. It was like a bunch of these, like, you know, showing their tits or whatever. So it wasn't anything new. But these cops got super fucking shitty about it and started trying to arrest the girls then. And then, you know, the guys started fighting. And then, like, it just, like, for real, it went from, like, you know, all cool, we're seeing some tits, oh, there's some cop action, this is funny, to, oh, shit, the fucking SWAT team are coming in and shooting us with fucking paintball fucking pepper spray pellets and shit. I remember as them coming in, you just started hearing people screaming, and then you could hear the sound of the shit going off or whatever, you know, the little fucking paintballs or whatever, and I started booking it back down this hallway, and I'm running with these ninjas, and I went to get my camera out, and I little disposable camera, and as I took the picture, and I go back to turn around and run, the same fucking cops that I have the picture of are then shooting right in our direction. This one ninja had grabbed me and pulled me into this bathroom as we were getting shot at. Fucking everyone in there is grabbing toilet paper and paper towels and putting it underwater and running on our face, and then booked right out of this bathroom and then ran out of the convention center. And in this time I had got split up with my homie who I was there with. And everyone had gotten, like, forced out of the building, man. The whole fucking building just, like, covered in this fucking powder shit. I remember looking to the actual convention hall as we were going out, and I was gonna go hide in the convention hall, and you could just see it just filling up as these fucking cops are in. It was just, like, the most crazy shit ever. Like I said, you know, I'm 13, 14 years old, 2.5+ hours away from home. I don't even know if I had a fucking cell phone at the time, you know. I know my boy didn't have one, so it was, like, impossible for us to find each other. He was on one side of the building, I was on the other. Outside, we're surrounded by news and police officers. And finally, I remember, like, climbing up onto this little, like, stack of, like, you know, decorative rocks or whatever, and I was looking for him, and he had the fucking spider leg braid shits in his head, and so did, like, fucking everybody else there or whatever, but his had fucking green rubber bands in him, so I'm just looking at every fucking ninja that hits him, and I finally spot him, and I jump off the rocks to finally go get him. Man, I remember I had, like, all the newspaper clippings for that shit. my mom back home had heard about it and all that stuff, and I wasn't able to get a hold of her until later. I finally had used some other people's phone that we had known or ran into, and I was back there calling my mom. Call your mom, let her know you're good. Like, oh shit. So, man, that was 2002 Gathering, and I was basically from that point on. I mean, if you're familiar with the 2002 Gathering, there's no reason for me to explain it, and if not, go back and fucking familiarize yourself. We got to see the 6 Jokers card. The shit was just fucking magical. I remember sitting in the seminar. We got to see the first seminar, so we were like some of the first people to see the Wraith Shangri-La, Wraith Hell's Pit, and I remember sitting in there and just like, it was fucking I was sitting on the back of a chair, and my homie was sitting on this other chair because we basically forced our way into it. We were sitting on these ninjas who were doing the same thing down this row, and I remember it was almost like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to like fucking church or whatever, and they go, "Peace be with you." When the fucking 6 Jokers card got announced or whatever, and they showed it, like, we were all just turning to random ninjas, hugging them and shit, like, "Yo, this is what we've been waiting for fucking." Oh, it was dope, man. But that was 2002 Gathering, and I wish I could have went immediately to the next year. The next year, I had went to the baseball All-Star game and also got myself in a little trouble, so there was no way I was going to the 2003 Gathering, but my homies all did, and that was the first one to go outside, and it was at Nelson Ledge's Quarry. But the next year, I definitely was like, fuck it, 2004 Gathering. We went with like a pretty deep squad. I know I was with Jiggy Fresh, my homie Frankie, my brother drove. My family's been pretty down. My brother was actually a juggalo. Both my brothers got me really into this shit, but my family's always had the general respect of the juggalo community, so they were always down to lend rides or whatever. So my brother drove, and we took one of our homies who really wasn't a juggalo at the time, or ever, you know what I'm saying? It was our boy Kyle. We called him KC, but he was just like down with us, and he was down with, partying, and he was down with some scumbag shit, but at the time, like, we were kind of like scummy as fuck anyway, but juggalos and almost in general kind of were. But 2004, it was dope because we went with my brother, and he was old school juggalo. That was at Nelson Ledge's Quarry. We ended up meeting out there. Our homie had to go to court that morning, so he had to wait to see what happened at court, and then he drove out and linked up with us. That Gathering, we went super hammer time. We camped across the road, because that's back then you still had to buy camping passes and had to pay to camp on the grounds or whatever. So we didn't do that. We camped at a property that was like down this trail. We actually called it Hater Trail. It was like a fucking quarter-mile trail, and at night they had generators that would run these lights, but those generators would go out constantly, or juggalos were breaking the lights constantly, so you'd end up having to walk like a quarter mile in the fucking pitch black. Luckily we had flashlights or whatever, and then it rained a few times, and it made that trail fucking, it was a trail through the woods, so it was muddy as fuck. You had to go down this hill one time that went over this bridge, and it was all, I fell down it one day. That's why I fucking hated it. But at that Gathering, the rain, alright, so it rained one I know for sure one good night, right? And when we got there, we got like super fucked up. My brother at the time, this is like a fucked up story though too, that ended up like causing years of fucking problems that I didn't realize until fucking years later or whatever. But my brother had been into like a pretty bad car accident a few weeks before and still went. But he was on those pain pills, back in fucking 2004. People didn't really like think of that as like a problem or whatever, but we were drinking the whole day, and my brother had like ended up vanishing at one point. We totally lost him, you know what I'm saying? And we ended up finding him hours later. And that night when we all went back to our campsite, we partied hard as fuck, and my brother had went into his camp, passed out. I was sleeping in the car. Once the party got done, I went into the car and passed out in my car. And when we were sleeping, it fucking, like I said, it poured down rain, fucking buckets or whatever. And I got out of my car and got up in the morning after the rain had passed. We got up, and our homies from South Bend were down there, so they were waking us up every morning. And I went in there to wake up my brother. And me and my brother, literally, I just saw him on 4th of July, and we talked about this. And he was in the tent that he was in. He didn't put his fucking rain fly on because he was too fucked up when he went and passed out in the tent. So when we were like, Tom, he's not answering us, and I'm like, a little worried. Like at the time, still, I didn't really like realize how bad pain pills were when out in 2004 or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But like, like my brother very well could have been dead inside this tent, and when we opened it up, the tent, I shit you not, had completely flooded up to the point where if my brother had rolled over, he would have been underwater. The water was like up to his fucking cheeks, filled inside this tent, and like where he had set up, it like had bowed into the middle, so everything was fucking soaked that he had in there. Luckily, he had left like a bunch, like his main shit in the car or whatever, like his bag of clothes or whatever, but everything that was inside that fucking tent was just like floating next to him in water. It was like so ridiculous. But he ended up trooping it through the rest of the time. There was like 2 hours that morning where he was like, I'm going home, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, then who's coming back to get us? Because we're not going home, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're at the fucking gathering. You can't handle yourself? I'm fucking 15, motherfucker. I'm handling myself, Like, you're not going home. At one point, I told my mom, because he had called my mom. Call your mom. He called my mom, and he was like, oh, blah, blah. I think I got the flu. I got to go home. I remember I walked away, and I called my mom. I was like, look, we've been drinking for like since we got here at whatever time. It's the whole next day. We're still drinking now. I'm drinking warm tequila I'm 15 years old talking to my mom. I was like, Tom is not going home. And we're not going home. You know what I'm saying? So that ended up being pretty dope though. He didn't go home. There at that gathering there is like one of the coolest things happened, but because I have nobody who else is gonna like. I would have to get permission to tell this fucking story. And it is like one of those stories that up until we're old, dead men, me and all my homies that were there, even my brother, will probably be like, oh, that was just so fucking crazy, right? And like, it was not like, it's nothing that like, I like, would like damage reputations or whatever. I just don't think I'm allowed to tell the fucking story, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily my story to tell. I just was there. So like, but it was cool. It was 2004 gathering, like I said, I'd been going to these gatherings at like, a young age. So I really was like, I was a kid, on the other side of the country, doing juggalo shit with just people my age. My brother was like, and my brother was the adult in that situation. At that gathering, we were drinking old style. So if you're from like the region or even like Ohio or whatever, I think that's about as far as you can get old style. But we were drinking old style, and that year, the year before, the Cubs had like went to the World Series or whatever, and they were like still, I guess, good or whatever in 2004, and we were drinking these old styles that had Cubs logos on them. So everyone knew. They were like, oh, where'd you get those cans, blah, blah, because, you couldn't get them out in Ohio, and the alcohol content is lower in beer than it is from, like, Illinois or Indiana or whatever, and so we had, like, 6 of these 30 racks of fucking old style. The whole thing, the whole weekend was old style or no style, but then we bought tequila, and me and my homies were going through, like, a fucking tequila kick at the time, so we had, like, a bunch of bottles of Jose Cuervo, like, so it was, like, just, like, a bunch of our fucking sayings that weekend were alcohol sayings. We were Jose, 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 Jose every morning after my brother's first fucked up day. Every time after that, like, he'd be pouring shots, and we would just be singing Jose, 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 and we were like, occasionally a stray can would get away from us, so that's how you'd know if our squad had been in that area, because there'd be a smashed old styles Cub can, and you're like, all right, someone had to have been in this area because there's one of our cans or whatever. That shit was good time, man. Like I said, I've been to a lot of gatherings, so I'm just gonna kind of keep it rolling. The next year, 2005, it was back at Nelson Ledges, and me and Jiggy Fresh were the only ones from our squad that were gonna make it. I think maybe some shit had happened in the squad or something. I don't know. But Jiggy and I were going to be the only ones that were going to ride out, and we were going to ride out together. And one of our homies that we had met at a Shangri-La show, like, a few years prior, and ended up, like, hanging with the squad or whatever, and lived kind of close to us, was looking for a ride. So we're like, bet, you know what I'm saying? We got you. We'll fucking hook you up. And she was like, yo, look, my pops has got all this camping equipment. So if you guys come pick me up, we'll use all this fucking camping equipment. We got tents, tarps, sleeping bags, everything we're gonna fucking need to have a fucking great camping trip, right? So, you know, we're gonna be camping at the motherfucking gathering. So, we go down there, and it's this small-ass town in Indiana, far fuck away from where we're at. And we go down there, and one of our homies is down there helping her pops get this shit together for us. He wasn't going to be able to go, but he was just trying to be a fucking kiss-ass and help and shit, you know what I'm saying? Maybe hoping he could sneak a ride with us at the last minute or whatever. But he was down there and helping, and we loaded all this shit up. Long story short, you know, we drove the fucking 6 hours to Ohio. I had a Mercury Tracer. I drove my car. I had a Mercury Tracer at the time. Small car, great on gas. Drive my car. Jiggy was gonna like pay gas almost the whole way. He had like this BP card or whatever, so he was gonna get gas like the whole rip. I remember it was pouring down rain, and I had, just like in my car now, I had these all-weather mats back there. You know what I'm saying? Come out. You know what I'm saying? Weren't made in the car, or you know, for the car later or whatever. But at one point I was like, Jiggy, like, you gotta drive, dog. You know, so he drives, and it's pouring down rain. That's why I had him drive. You know what I'm saying? Jiggy was, you know, older, more responsible driver or whatever at the time. So I was like, look, you gotta drive, dog. So he drives, and I sat in the back seat, and man, I gotta fucking smoke a blunt. Like at the time, I don't know, I was like still a new driver. I didn't like riding in the car. Actually, I had just fucking got my license, I think, that year or whatever. So it was night. It was pouring down rain. I was like, yo, I gotta fucking smoke a blunt. We couldn't roll down the window to fucking dump this blunt out or anything, and I just straight dumped the fucking blunt guts on the mat that was on the floor. But this is just one of the things that I remember. This is not my gathering story or whatever. This is one of the weird things that I remember to this day, riding in the back of that car, and I was like, fuck, man. I was like, I got nothing I could fucking, I was like, I could just take these mats out, you know what I'm saying? I just fucking dumped and back then it wasn't like cigarillos like this shit, it was like the full-size blunt shit, dumped the full-size blunt right onto the fucking mat down there. But anyway, we got to the gathering, and we ended up, finding some people who were like renting out their backyard. So we're like, dope, you know what I'm saying? Like, however much it was gonna cost, you know, for a spot, we could park our car there, we could take our car out of there if we needed to, all that shit, you know what I'm saying? Cheaper, and it was like literally just a walk up the road, and then you were at the main gates of the gathering. So we're like, fuck yeah, let's do this shit, you know? We go, and like, yeah, like we met some awesome people then too. Like it was ended up being like basically like a campground area of its own, where we knew everybody who had came in. They only, like, you know, once the backyard was full, they didn't let anybody else in there. You had to have a pass to get back in there. They gave us passes on our cars, and then gave us like a different wristband that was similar to like the gathering style wristbands that you get. And we'd go back there, you know, and knew everybody who was camping out there. It was awesome. We camped next to some really cool people. But when we got there, we found out that we didn't have the tents. We had everything else, literally everything else besides the tents. So we're like, fuck. Like, this does us like very little to any good. We're all gonna just sleep in this fucking car, and that's really what we did. That year, man, 2005 gathering was a super dope gathering, and yeah, we forgot those tents. We slept in our car. Those people at that property were dope as fuck though too. Like, you know, they were charging, but they had people like grilling every day, so like you get food there. Like they had water, pop, all that shit, but they let us use their hose and all that shit too. You know what I'm saying? We did have one of those solar bags that you fill up with water, and then fucking it heats up from the sun, and then you use that as a shower. So we used that, you know, like, so at least we had those, like that cool shit, but we didn't have fucking tents, and we slept in the car, and that kind of sucked. We never thought maybe to put the tarps over the fucking car windows when we were sleeping, so that in the morning, like, the sun didn't fucking fuck with us, because one morning it fucked with us, and that's the story I'm kind of going to tell. Again, you know, some of these stories are explicit. Some of these stories, you know, maybe people wouldn't want me to tell, but at that year's gathering, the 2005 gathering, me and Jiggy were up. I'm not gonna, man, I have a whole other story that I'm not gonna fucking tell. I think I might have told it before, but we had like another really cool situation that came out of that, and I still have dreams about that situation. But me and like, at the end of the day, me and Jiggy were like flossed out in merch at the motherfucking gathering, right? So we're chilling up at the main stage one night. Shit just got over, and this dude was like spinning glow sticks or whatever. So me and Jiggy were like, bro, we should get some like rolls or whatever tonight. We had fucking tons of cash, you know, from selling shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, yo, we should get some fucking rolls or whatever tonight. He's like, bet, bro. So I was like, that guy's got to have them. We end up going on a fucking like hour-long walk with this ninja till he finds a site, and he takes us back and he gets us this fucking Molly, you know what I'm saying? And really, you know, back then we were like, we'd ate a couple pills or whatever, but we never like seen some like fucking powdered Molly or whatever. And me and Jiggy got it, and we called our homie back in the crib, our drug expert back at the crib, and he's like, oh man, you know, yeah, that sounds about right, you know what I'm saying? He's like, I just wouldn't take the whole thing. So me and Jiggy were like, yeah, bro, thanks, Freeze, for the info. We appreciate you, Doug. Hung up, talked about what he said, and then we just fucking both took a fucking bag and ate the whole fucking bag. And, you know, at first we're like, man, this is fucking bogus, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, it hit us like a fucking ton of bricks, and Jiggy had to take a seat for a minute as it hit him, and shortly after that, we got up, and we were chilling on the beach and waiting for some main stage acts to go on. And at the time, there was this guy who was in this band called Mantis, and they were on this MTV show called like Battle for Ozfest or whatever. And his band, they were playing at the gathering and shit. And we ended up seeing him on the beach. His name was a Deer, and we just thought it was funny, like, cause we were like, oh, look, it's a deer on the beach, you know. I don't know, that was just a whole other thing. But went up to him, we talked to him. He gave us homie hugs, and we bullshit or whatever, told him we'd saw him on MTV or whatever. Me and Jiggy was like, we were like super rolled out, man. We went out to Club Chaos that night, saw Tech 9 at Club Chaos, and that was in like the dark forest. That shit was dope as fuck to just be out there, like on that, like like I said, we'd taken like rolls or whatever before, but I'd never done anything like that. So I felt like it was like next level shit for us, man. And I remember like whenever we ended up going back to our site late night, early morning, our homies were chilling around a fire, and they were like, "Oh man, y'all were like, I don't really remember that shit, but they were like, oh man, you guys were fucked." When we talked to them in the morning, but like I said, we were sleeping in the car, and I remember just like laying there as the sun was coming up, and just like hallucinating like a motherfucker, just like watching my steering wheel. Like it was almost like an acid hallucination. It was just wild. But you know, you really didn't sleep well, so me and G got up the next morning and met up with our South Bend homies, and went cliff jumping. And cliff jumped and swam in fucking the lake the next morning as our come down. Mini Kiss played that gathering. If you guys saw the last video, I was showing everybody my Mini Kiss boxers. The gathering was dope though too, because it was really like, we didn't hang out with our homegirl that came too much, you know what I'm saying? It was really Jiggy and I hanging out like all over the gathering, and at the time, you know, like really we'd hung out. We had a pretty big squad, so it was dope that Jiggy and I had made it out there. You guys who are familiar, you know, Jiggy and I have known each other since we were little ass kids though, or since we were in like elementary school. We just didn't really hang out as much until we'd gotten older, and then like the Juggalo shit, you know what I'm saying, really like is what we became tight on. So we got to go to that gathering together. I got a fucking speeding ticket on the way home. It was reckless driving, but the cop didn't arrest us or anything. Didn't even make Jiggy drive, just fucking let us keep driving through. I give him a good excuse though. But like when we got home, then my ashtray inside my car was every blunt we had smoked at the campsite that weekend. I was like, fuck, man, if that cop would have fucking actually checked, because he's like, you been drinking? You got anything on your breath? And I was like, maybe bad breath. I've been driving for like the last 6 hours. You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, okay, blah, blah. Like, it was funny. But after that gathering, I didn't go to a gathering for like 4 years. Just a bunch of different shit. I mean, like, I went to shows or whatever. I just didn't go to the gathering. And like, I missed that mud gathering. I'm happy I missed that shit, you know, like, so really I didn't miss a whole lot throughout there. A couple of my homies went. I think even Jiggy went to another one after that. I think he even went to that mud gathering. I'm not sure, but I know like some other homies that we had at the time went to like that mud gathering and another gathering then too. But I didn't go back until 2009. I was gonna go in 2008, and then just like some shit had happened, and I didn't go back until 2009. Went with Jiggy Fresh in 2009 though. Like as I go into the stories of 2009, as like as history goes, you know what I'm saying? Like stories get retold and details change. In some of the stories of like 2009, Jiggy Fresh and I may or may not have changed entire details on it. So I'm gonna tell the story how it's now told. But it was me, Jiggy Fresh, and Matt Murderous who went to the 2009 gathering. That's how history is told. It was me, Jiggy Fresh, and Matt Murderous. So really, then we've been tight with Matt Murderous since back then, though, too. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys actually heard the story of how I met Matt Murderous on a show, I'm sure, before. But and if you guys are just new to watching, you don't know who the fuck those motherfuckers are. Those are the homies, TeamMUJ. And me, Jiggy Fresh, and Matt Murderous went to the 2009 gathering at Cave and Rock, Illinois, Hog Rock, or whatever. Like I could say this now because we'll probably never go back to Hog Rock, but that might be my least favorite place we've ever gathered. It was hot. There was like no shade. Hep Lake's disgusting, so there was like no real place to cool off or whatever. Spasmatic was tight about it. The ride location and stuff was tight, and then it was right on that river was really cool. And I never got bit by mosquitoes or anything while I was there. I noticed that though too. I think it was just maybe because how hot it was and how dusty it always was. But anyway, it hadn't been to a gathering since 2005 at that point. We were taking our boy to his first gathering, Matt Murderous, who was his first gathering. And if you guys went to Cave and Rock and shit, you know, you had to park at that fucking hill all the way over there, and then you'd either drive down and in or walk down and in. And if you walked down and in and left your car up there, you had to go back up there. And we did. We left our fucking car up there one day for sure. Went back down the motherfucking hill, and I remember when we were first walking down the hill with our homie, his first gathering, he's juggalo as fuck though, you know, Matt Murderous, you know, yeah, we walked past this dude, and he had his like chest fucking like stitched up, definitely should have been at the hospital, definitely was fucked up, and I was like, that's what you're getting yourself into, you know. But 2009 gathering, it was dope to be back at the gathering. It was dope to see how the gathering has changed at that point then too over those last years. I will give it to Cave and Rock, but it's like I think at Cave and Rock then too they had the shit together, you know what I'm saying? It was perfect layout for everything. They had plenty of space to do whatever the fuck they wanted. If you guys had never been to Nelson Ledges, it was the same, but I think at that point Juggalos had outgrown Nelson Ledges though too. Like once you are so big, it made Nelson Ledges a little harder, but Nelson Ledges was dope as fuck, had a really cool main stage, had a cool area where they would do like wrestling or JC Dub, the in the woods they had the Club Chaos, they had a basketball court in there, they had a fucking another like seminar tent type shit where they had the comedy and stuff. So Nelson Ledges was dope as fuck, but Nelson Ledges also had the clean water to swim in, which was like the ultimate thing, but it never really got as hot in Nelson Ledges as it did down in Cave and Rock. And that was probably my biggest beef with Cave and Rock. It was always just hot as a bitch. But 2009, like I said, it was cool to be back there and see. And then once you didn't have to pay for camping, I don't know, I forgot how the other years went, but once you didn't have to pay for camping, you could never go back to paying for camping. So I was wondering how Nelson Ledges would have been if we would have went back last year. Because I just don't think Juggalos are about the paying for. I mean, but don't get me wrong. People buy fucking $500 baller sites, so I'm completely wrong on that. 2009, we had a dope ass time. One of my favorite memories of it though was like it might even been the last day, and we had our beer and we took our beer up onto the motherfucking Love Bus, and we just kept taking the Love Bus or the Love Train, whatever it was called that year, around the gathering. And as it went on, man, we were just slamming beers, you know, me and the homies, you know, fucking me, Jiggy Fresh, and Matt Murderous, you know, just fucking slamming beers and shit. And we'd go around and there'd be people selling beers, and after we ran out of our beers, we'd buy beers. So every time that we would see someone, it was like we were at the bar, we were buying rounds for each other, you know what I'm saying? Here, hey, let me get a beer, let me get 3 of those, And the Love Bus then ended up starting like a war with different campsites to where, you know, people, they would come up on us and throw water balloons, super soaker with us or whatever. So then other ninjas got the idea, they're like, hey, we're gonna jump on the Love Bus, we're gonna fucking have our fucking buckets full of, you know, super soakers, water balloons, and all that shit, and we're gonna come up, when we come up on that site, everyone fucking start blasting it. So we went on for like 2 or 3 hours on the Love Bus, making the long ass loop, waiting to come around to these 2 campsites, and then we'd have a fucking, you know, 30-second to a minute, 2-minute war as the Love Bus was going through the area. And then, you know, it ended up getting nasty. Then they started throwing food and shit like that, so we ended up getting off of it after that. But I remember, like, for like 2 or 3 hours, just me and the homies rolling through the gathering. You know, I wish I had the camera equipment that we have now, and could have just been recording that. Just like, it wasn't even just what was happening on the Love Bus, but like every stop, people were, you know, a lot of those people weren't on for the war. They were just on to catch the ride through the gathering. So you'd be there just chopping it up with different ninjas, you know. You'd see different areas of the gathering. Every time you were driving through, you've seen something different. And, you know, it was the last day, so I think a lot of people are usually, you know, a little emotional and shit on the last day. You're just like sucking it all in, you know, and we were just going through, and, you know, we were just laughing, drinking beers, you know what I'm saying, in the hot ass fucking summer sun. I was like, straight up, I looked like my ancestors, fucking Aztec, fucking straight gold black out there. Like, it was wild. It was a good ass time. You guys will see some pictures. There's me, Jiggy Fresh, and Mad Murderous, and me and Jiggy Fresh in this other picture. And man, it was like, for Jiggy sent me the picture, I'm like, yo, those dudes, who are those dudes? They kind of look like us. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, that was a long time ago. That's, to think now, that's you know, like 12 years ago was that gathering. It is wild, you know. So that was fun as fuck. But that is like a lot of cool shit happened at that gathering. I slept. That was probably the gathering I slept the most. I was like, yo, I think that's when I started. By then, I started realizing that I was too old for that sleeping outside shit. But I still went another couple of years before you know. So the next year though too, because in 2009 we didn't parking lot party. We got there the morning that the gathering started, so we pulled in the morning, and there was like, it was already popping. But after the 2009, I did end up going then for like the next 2 or 3 years, 2 years after that. In 2010, we did parking lot party. We got there the night before the gathering was gonna start. That year, I went with Matt Murderous, for sure, Matt Murderous, Low Spot Nixon, one of their homies, and my nephew. And what's cool is, like, I got 2 nephews that are like 2 and 4 years younger than me. So like we were like basically like we just grew up together or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I took my younger nephew at that year. He, like, I don't know what, maybe he just got out of high school or something. He really wanted to go, so he did like the festival circuit. He did like summer camp that year, a bunch of like small local festival shits, and then he was like, man, I really want to go check out this gathering. So we went, we took him to the gathering, and we parking lot partied, and like as soon as we got it, man, like, the parking lot party is fucking wild as fuck, you know. The gathering has not started at all yet, and shit is just crazy, you know. So we rolled on to that same property. It was again at Cave and Rock, Illinois, Hog Rock. And after you make that fucking long ass ride up Lambs Road or whatever the fuck, you know, and you get out, and we got on the top of that hill, and Matt Murderous basically pulled his vehicle into the line that was going to just start again the next morning. You know, we weren't going to get out and really set up much. We were just going to stay in this fucking line then so in the morning they could just go straight down there. And we ended up meeting some people, and it was dope. We ended up meeting this dude, Fats. And he was, you know, a loud, wanted to party juggalo, and we were like, about it. And he was like, hey, you guys, my lady's gonna stay up here with my stuff. She could kick it with your homies or whatever, and we'll go down to the gathering, and we'll go like scope out the spot that we want to stay. So we took chairs and whatever we were allowed to take in at the time. We took maybe even our tents and all that shit, right? So we rolled up down into the gathering. You know, we just really had just met this Fats dude within the hour. Yeah, so we rolled into the gathering. It was me, that dude Fats, Matt Murders' homie. I think his name was also Bobby, and my nephew Marco. And we went down into the fucking gathering at night and went to our spot. We had this spot, and this was gonna be our second year, and I wanted to try to claim up the spot again. So we went out of that spot, but we went to the gathering and we partied hard as fuck that night. It was cool, man. Like, we went on from the gathering that me, Fats, and his lady and shit had hung out several times. He came to family's house and saw 2 ICP shows, I think, with us down there. He just ended up, and we hung out with him like every year at the gathering almost since then. Every time that we'd seen him, he'd been a homie or whatever. But that was cool as fuck, because it was the first time that I'd ever parking lot partied. I was not going to, and I'll never parking lot party again, I don't think, either. So, but we went hard as fuck. And like I said, I had taken my nephew, and, you know, my nephew at that point, you know, he was able to make his own decisions. I wasn't going to let him do anything I wouldn't let him do anything that I wouldn't do, but we ended up, they were going to premiere Big Money Wrestles. We had already went to the premiere Big Money Wrestles that year, but they were going to premiere it at the gathering, and they had set up the area, and where that area was like literally right where we camped and set up for, you know, the year before and the following like 3 years, other people after I stopped staying there. But it was like right in the thick of that, and they set up the inflatable screen, and they were going to show it that night, and we had ate some acid before. I don't know, maybe it was after main stage before. It had to have been sometime maybe during main stage before it or whatever. And I remember hanging out on our site and just tripping out. But when we started to kind of like, you know, ease a little back to reality, the movie was, you know, people were starting to show up for the movie, but the movie wasn't going to start for a little bit. And man, like, I remember just like vibing out with all these other juggalos that had came to watch the movie. And me and my nephew were just like, you know, holding court about fucking, you know, cool ass fucking nerd shit like fucking comics and fucking ICP, and like my nephew was like, you know, wasn't totally up, so like all of us juggalos were kind of just like, you know, dropping some knowledge on him, and we ended up getting other juggalos in the conversation. It was just dope as fuck. We were all sitting around on hay bales and all that shit and chilled, and you know, it's those moments of the gathering that make it so dope, and why it is so fresh to go to the gathering every year. It's new experiences every year. There was one of our homies was talking about it, you know, and said like every year it's something different. So if it's your first time, it's like your first time almost every time. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we've been to these grounds before, but it's been a few years since I've been back to Nelson or wherever we're gonna go this year again. What's Legend Valley? So every year is new, you know, and I feel like at that point in 2010, I was like, all right, you know, I've been to a few gatherings now already, and I was getting older as I'm going to these gatherings, and I'm figuring out more and more what I need to do to make the gathering, to be able to survive the gathering and still party or have a good time or whatever. And I went from having like, you know, going to these gatherings at, like you said, like 13, 14 years old or whatever, with like no money, you know what I'm saying, to, you know, then, you know, having a job and having some money, and then being able to save money, and then actually, you know, going to gatherings with some money or whatever. And in 2011, I think I was the most prepared for a gathering ever. Had money to take to the gathering, but like we had also like saved up shit like the entire year, like water, things like that we're gonna need, to where by the time it was we went to the gathering, we had a surplus of stuff. And I think I was, the most prepared for that gathering. Like, we balled out at that gathering. It was fucking super dope, and we camped in the same area and of this downtown area. But this was like, that gathering was like the tipping point for me then too, you know. I was super prepared, all that or whatever, but I was still camping outside, and you never fucking, if you don't sleep right for 2 days, you know, it fucks you all up or whatever. So here, you're not sleeping the whole gathering. It was just fucking, it just sucked, you know. And one morning when I had stayed up all night, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what people want you to do. I stayed up all night, had a good ass time or whatever, and I'm getting my, you know, 9 a.m. siesta, and the wake up parade came through, and I remember, like, you know, laying up at my spot and watching them and stuff, but I couldn't keep my eyes open. They were just, and as soon as my eyes just fucking closed, like, I woke up, some fucking asshole had thrown a hay bale on me, and, like, you know, all my homies fucking seen it, that were at, because they were at the spot next to me, like, you know, and they seen it happen. The fucking dude took off. I'm fucking getting up, fucking trying to put my shoes on and go fucking kill somebody. I was like, man, at that point I was like, I can never camp at the Gathering of the Juggalos ever again, you know. But 2011 was super dope. Like I said, the squad was thick. We had taken over this whole downtown area. My homies from South Bend were there. I mean, like, we just had, like, a good-ass time. I remember sitting there, though, at the 2011 Gathering, at this site that me and Jiggy had found in 2009. And I was like, damn, man, Jiggy hasn't been here these last 2 years, you know what I'm saying? It sucks, you know? And I fucking scribbled a message in fucking the Sharpie that I had on the staircase of this shit, like, because it was like, there was like a stage, almost a platform there that they didn't use for anything, and we just took it over. And I remember writing a message to Jiggy saying that next time we'll be reading that message to like, you know, or some shit. I don't know. I forgot. You know, he's gonna see this message or some shit. I don't know, something about the fucking Gathering or whatever. Of course, you know, we never went back there, and I'm glad we never go back there. And then I didn't go to a Gathering. This then would be the longest gap then where I didn't go to a Gathering from was 2011 till 2016. I don't know what had happened. I just didn't go to a bunch of, I mean, like, no, I was doing a bunch of shit. I still, like I said, still went to shows or whatever. I just didn't go to gatherings then for a long time after that. Went in 2006. I almost went, I think, like the year prior. I was actually going to perform with our homie Hayes, who's now on 4-2 Records. I was in a group with her at the time. And then my boy, Adam, Webmaster Baker, he went that year, and I was going to go with him that year, and I didn't end up going or whatever. But then the following year, or the next year that he said he was going to go, I was like, look, fucking going 100%. It's the 17th annual. Not missing 17. And that's what I was like, all right, so I'm only going to go to the big ones then now. So it was like 17, I'm going back or whatever. And they did 17 at Legend Valley in Ohio. And right now, like, it's, like, I don't know, man, it's up there. And if I went into my list of this is like my top 3, top 2 even, maybe, favorite gatherings, you know. It was just super dope. We ended up going with, for his first time, our homie Kenny Rogers. This is my fucking, you know, my motherfucking homie. So we got a hotel that year because my boy Adam, Webmaster Baker, had got the hotel the year before, and it was at Legend Valley. So we got a hotel. It was a shitty ass hotel though. I won't fucking lie. It's not like we stayed at the fucking Ritz or some shit. We stayed at a fucking a shitty hotel. But that gathering, just like the 17 vibes, even before anything, were already being felt. But then they were gonna do Wizard of the Hood, and they did Wizard of the Hood, which was just so fucking fire. Like, what we've pictured for Juggalos for fucking years, since 2003, since 2003 or so. We've been waiting for Wizard of the Hood. And you got to be shown to us, and it was exactly how we wanted it to look. A lot of my homies were there, and it was like the break between gatherings. I had done like the whole like DJ run with UG Promotions and shit like that, and I'd met a lot of fucking people, a lot of Chicago Juggalos, a lot of Juggalos from like Colorado and shit. So it was super dope then at that gathering to then see those ninjas then, you know, like, so then like. I knew more even Juggalos going into the 17th annual. So the vibes were just like so much heavier. And then, you know, you could, like, the different pockets of friends I was hanging tough with my homie Beast at the time, you know, and to go with my boys Kenny and Webmaster Baker, and then we went to go chill with Beast and Tommy Heathen, and then we're able to link up with Matt Murderous and Lotus Nixon, and then meet up with fucking our homegirl Tiff G, and then Fats, you know what I'm saying, and and all the old school juggalos and you know, our South Bend ninjas, you know what I'm saying? We ran into like Sam. I don't know if Tara was there that year, but we ran into like all of the people, you know. So like the vibes at the 17th were just so fucking cool, you know. A lot of fireworks kind of sucked, but everything else about it was dope. That's what makes me like have this good memory coming for Legend Valley this year. Is like, I don't know, like the terrain kind of sucks or whatever, but man, I really do. I felt like some fucking magical ass vibes. Was it just that we were 17 and beaming? I don't know. Was it just Wizard of the Hood? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But it was just super dope. All the homies there. Like, one of my favorite moments during Wizard of the Hood was homies to smoke with, and we were smoking blunts. Because Kenny Rogers was super hyped for this shit, too. And I was like, that was hype for us then, too. Like, you know, he's not really a juggalo. He goes to all kinds of festivals, you know, Bonnaroo, Electric Forest and shit, you know, raves, you know, all kinds of shows and stuff. You know, he got to experience one of the best juggalo experiences by seeing Wizard of the Hood, and he was ready for that shit. Always had pre-rolls, blunts, and during homies to smoke with, like, at one point, man, I was smoking with just like all of the generations of juggalo homies. My boy Frankie, who I have story from my first gathering all the way with, he was there with his lady, and you know, he was like some of the first people that like we together listened to ICP. You know, I heard it from my brother, and then I passed it on to some people, and it was him and another one of our homies, PJ, that like we were the first people to like get together in our area and fucking listen to ICP, you know, and so he was there, and Kenny and Adam and Matt Murderous and Beast and Tommy Heathen. It was just like, and you know, I'd met them, all these people through like different stages of my life, as with, you know, how ICP has been there, their psychopathic, and these gatherings have been there through all these different stages of my life. It was just really cool to think about it at that time. Homies to smoke with, I'm smoking with this, which is, you know, a whole generation of all my homies. You know, people that I've known from 20 years to 2 years or whatever at that point. It was just super fucking dope, man. I really like, I don't know. That was one of my favorite moments. If you missed Wizard of the Hood, I'm sorry for you. I didn't do anything that was gonna like change my perception that night, so I only smoked weed and drank a little bit that night, so that I was like, you know, only highs, like, and I wasn't like fucking super faded or anything during Wizard of the Hood, just so that I didn't want to miss a minute of it, you know what I'm saying? So the next night I partied super hard after ICP. That was my favorite moments, and I'll throw some pictures in here from after ICP the 17th. I think I have some videos in too. It was just, man, it was a magical fucking moment, and I was like pretty sure that it couldn't be beat, so I didn't go back for 3 years, and then I went back for the SOOPA Doopa. And it's funny, like I say here now, you know, like for the 17th, I was like, oh, I'm only gonna go back for the big shits now, you know what I'm saying? Who can fucking not go to the SOOPA Gathering of the Juggalos? Who can not go to the 20th? And I'm not gonna bullshit you. I totally wanted to go to Whoopstock, and I should have went with Beast at least the one day to Whoopstock or whatever, but I didn't, you know. The 20th is up there then with the high ranking fucking gatherings, and two. It was like 1, 2, and 3 would be hard to list or whatever. My top 5 would be hard to list, but I mean, like I said, I've only been to 8, so it's not like they've all been fucking my favorite and for different reasons. And the 20th was dope. The return of Jiggy Fresh. So to go back to the gathering with Jiggy Fresh after 10 years. Hadn't gone to a gathering with Jiggy Fresh since the 2009 gathering, and was able to go back in 2019. It was fucking SOOPA, you know, like that was dope. Matt Murderous and Lotus Nixon held down a campsite for us. So we stayed at the hotel again, linked up with motherfucking Webmaster Baker, and we're like, yo, Webmaster Baker, let's do this shit together. And we all went down together and stayed at a different, because it was in Indiana. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it was, what do they even call it? I honestly don't even remember what they called it. Crystal? No, they couldn't have called it that. I honestly don't remember what they called it down in Indiana, but it was somewhere in fucking Indiana. I don't even remember because it was in Indiana, but we stayed in like Bloomington, which was like 20 minutes outside, away from where it was at. So it was like 2.5, 3 hours or so away from where we're at now. I don't know if it was the closest, but I know when we found out it was in Indiana, we got super hype, and we put in like just the wrong address on it, and it showed that it was 45 minutes away from us. And not even 45 minutes, it was like a half hour. We were like, oh, we're going after parties at my house every fucking night after the gathering. We're like, all right, fuck it. We're staying at my house. Fuck a hotel. We're just staying at home and going back to the gathering, you know. We stayed at the hotel. Webmaster Baker, Jiggy Fresh, and myself, Matt Murdis and Lotus Nixon held down a campsite in a pretty dope populated area that we were able to set up at every day. It goes without saying how SOOPA Dupa the 20th annual was. I mean, we had some really cool experiences. The shows were incredible, but just like the juggalos that we met, I mean, even just walking through there, we had met so many ninjas from TeamMUJ, Go Green Ninja, Kachina and Yakima, fucking the Native Pack. We met so many people just walking in right away. It was so dope. It just brought those vibes right back here. Like I said, at that point, it had only been 3 years then, or 3 years since I'd been to a gathering, but just even that layoff in between. You go into a show and you get some fucking dope ass vibes out of it, and don't get me wrong, it's dope as fuck, but like, I don't know, just nothing beats the gathering. And some people are like, oh, fuck the gathering, Hello Wicked all day, or Juggalo Day all day. Those are all dope in their own thing. Just the gathering, just because it is this long fucking, big ordeal, you don't have to fucking leave at all, is dope. We the 20th annual will unless it gets beat out, what I'm saying, we'll always have a fucking spot in my heart. We chopped it up with Ouija at that gathering. Chopped it up, like, I had this cool conversation with Clownless at the gathering. It was just a dope ass time, and we were there with good people, and we met some cool ass people. So I hope that this year we bring it back. We bring the numbers back, because we've been a year off every year, so now it'll be 21 in 21. It's crazy as fuck. We can buy the gathering and drink now. The gathering can buy itself a drink now. It's dope, man. I really can't wait to see you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed like just this bullshit story stuff, like on the road to the gathering of the Juggalos. We just kind of want to hype it up a little bit more. As you guys know, we are waiting for the lineup to drop so we can drop the follow-up video to the last video we dropped. But we are about to film the meetup video. And if you guys are familiar with the channel and you guys saw the SOOPA Gatherings Gutter Gang Gary Way Gathering giveaway video, we're going to do something a little similar to that for the meetup video. And we hope that you guys check that out. And if you guys want to fucking just meet up with TeamMUJ at the gathering, this will be the perfect time to come say what's up and, chop it up, what I'm saying? We've just met so many people over the last couple of years that, like, if we're all going to be at the gathering together, we want to make sure that we see y'all and talk to y'all and shit. You guys, man, like I said, share your stories in the comments. Man, I don't know, I just want to get out here and talk some shit about the gathering, like every year. Even the years that I know I'm not going, you get those feelings, the memories, the dreams and shit. So this year, knowing that I'm going, I'm just like hype as fuck about it. And I want to keep talking about it. We ain't been back at the gathering. Everyone had a whole year off the gathering, so we're all going back new. I mean, no matter what, no matter the lineup, no matter anything, as long as y'all are there and we're there, it's gonna be dope as fuck. But yeah, for the homies, fucking Jiggy Fresh and Matt Murderous, I'm your boy BobeBlaze, and this is some story time shit with TeamMUJ. We'll see you at the motherfucking gathering of the Juggalos.